Hello everybody, this is Daniel John. I wanted to do a video on object Elenin. It's most people believe it is comet Elenin, but if you think there's a cover-up or something going on, you might be inclined to believe that it's a brown dwarf and not a comet. In this video, I'm going to go through 7 alignments of the Elenin and the Sun and the Earth, and there's been 3 alignments recently, and they've all produced big earthquakes. And only if it's either a coincidence or Elenin is an object of large mass, such as a brown dwarf. A comet wouldn't be able to produce enough forces on the Earth to cause earthquakes. It would have to be something like a brown dwarf or something. So we're going to look at these alignments, and we're also going to look at biblical prophecy that could possibly be getting fulfilled after the summer with this particular object. We'll start with the Sun, and then we'll look at 2 orbits, and we'll go around these orbits counterclockwise. The elliptical orbit is Elenin, coming in on the left side of the screen and exiting at the top of the screen. And the round orbit is Earth. And these dates on here are for 2011. In this picture, I'll put a link in the description for this picture that I got. And then we're going to look at the 7 alignments of Sun, Earth, and Elenin. And the first alignment occurred February 27, 2010. And the Earth is in the middle, as it will be on every other alignment on these 7 alignments that I go through. And it was on that date that the Chile earthquake occurred, 8.8 on the Richter scale. The next alignment occurs about halfway. The Earth will go through its orbit, and then about halfway through it'll get to the next alignment. And on that one, the Sun will be in the middle. And that occurred on September 4th, 2010. And that is when the New Zealand earthquake, the Christchurch, New Zealand earthquake, occurred. 7.2. It wasn't quite as big as the one in Chile. And then the Earth will go through its orbit, and then about halfway through we'll get our 3rd alignment. That occurred on March 11, 2011. The Earth again was in the middle, just like it was with the Chile earthquake. And once again we had a major earthquake, the one in Japan, 9.0 on the Richter scale. So we get an idea here from these 3 alignments that not only is earthquakes happening, but the greater ones occur when the Earth is in between Elenin and the Sun. Now it could just be a coincidence, but this is 3 times in a row. This is starting to make you wonder if Elenin might actually be a brown dwarf and not a comet. Our next alignment will occur with Elenin entering into Earth's orbit this summer, and then just after the summer ends, we'll have our 4th alignment. And that occurs on September 27, 2011. Elenin is in the middle of this alignment. It's the only one of the 7 where Elenin's in the middle. And that's because it's inside of Earth's orbit. And if it really is a brown dwarf and it's large enough, it could actually block out the Sun for a few days even. Could be kind of like in the book of Exodus when there was 3 days of darkness. Something like that. And what's interesting is this is at the very end of the Hebrew calendar. September 29th is the first day of the Hebrew calendar, and that's the Feast of Trumpets. And then October 8th is Yom Kippur, and then there's a 3rd feast from October 13th through the 20th called the Feast of Tabernacles. So you have 3 feasts in a row right after this. Now this could be, this September 27th date here, this could be a cataclysmic event. We got Elenin closer to the Earth than to the Sun, and it's right in between the Earth and the Sun. And it would fulfill the biblical prophecies of Matthew 24:29, as well as the sixth seal of the Apocalypse, which is Revelation 6, verse 12. And not only would the sun be darkened, but you would have a great earthquake. The moon would turn blood red, and then you'd have a great earthquake, probably tidal waves and volcanoes erupting too. It'd be a huge cataclysmic event. It would probably wipe out the coastal regions. But there would be some survivors, because in Revelation 6:17 it talks about people hiding under the rocks from the day of wrath. They know that the day of wrath has come, of the Lord's wrath, which is a synonym for the day of the Lord, or the day of judgment. And so you'll have people living underground. There'll be survivors. It won't be safe to be outside. You could have extremely high temperatures or extreme cold, or you could have dangerous gases released by volcanoes, and also nuclear plants having radiation releases into the air. So you would need to be underground. And that would be from September 27th and for about 45 days or so. I think if there really is a cataclysmic event, the Lord would probably return for the rapture after those 3 Jewish feasts. It would probably be between October 21 and November 14. And November 14 is significant because that's the anniversary of Noah's flood. And I believe it would be the 7,000th anniversary, which is significant. Fortunately, the 5th alignment does not occur until after November 14th. And this one, the Earth would be in the middle again. And it would be similar to the alignment that produced the Japan earthquake, except only 28% of the distance as it was back then. So the Elenin would be much, much closer to Earth than it was at the time of the Japan earthquake. So this could produce a really enormous earthquake. Remember, the biggest ones occur when the Earth is in the middle. So this could be the biggest earthquake that the Earth has ever had on November 22. And then the 6th alignment, once again the earthquakes will get smaller. The 6th alignment would be on June 16, 2012, the sun in the middle. That would be similar to the New Zealand one, except 85% of the distance. In other words, Elenin's a little closer to the Earth than it was on the New Zealand earthquake. And then the 7th one would be December 21, 2012. The Earth's in the middle again, and it's similar to the Chile earthquake, except the distance is 86%. So Elenin's a little bit closer. So right now, the big date is September 27th. And that could be a major event happening then. We could have an eclipse and stuff like that. But hopefully before then we would find out if it's a comet or not. We should see it real soon, within the next, within the next month or so. You would think we would be able to see it. It's going to be entering into Earth's orbit. And so we should be able to see it. If we continue to not be able to see it, then it probably is a brown dwarf. And you would want to make some preparations. You'd want to have a basement or some sort of underground place to go to for a while in case things get real rough. You would also want to be away from the coast. And then, of course, in your underground hideout, you would want to have about 45 days, 50 days worth of food and water to try to ride it out. But if it's just a comet, then we'll know soon, and then there won't be any reason to take any precautions or anything. It'll just be an interesting sight in the sky. So we'll be looking at the sky in the weeks ahead. Again, the biggest thing, though, is whether or not the Lord has actually saved you, whether or not you're actually born again. And God saves us by grace through faith, and He gives grace to the humble. So be humbling yourself before God and be believing, be putting your faith in God. But recognize too that He owns salvation. We're completely dependent upon Him to save us. We can't do it on our own. So hopefully you're saved. If so, there's not really anything to fear. But if not, then now's a good time to really be in deep prayer and be humbling yourself, again, as I said. And so we'll see what happens. Thank you for listening, and may God bless you.